The life of Dr. Charles Stanley, I'm sure, have inspired many of Christians around the world. On April 18, 2023, at the age of 90 years old, Dr. Charles Stanley passed away. We think there is something we can learn from his life and apply to our own. The first thing we can take away from Dr. Charles Stanley's life is that you don't have to be disabled by family dysfunction. About 9 months after his birth, Dr. Stanley's father died at the age of 29. This left him to be raised by a single mother, Rebecca, who is his mother's name. Dr. Stanley was born in 1932 during the height of the Great Depression in the United States. She is now in the Lord's presence. In fact, during his first 16 years of life, he moved 17 times. In order to try to pay the bills and maintain the household expenses, his mother accepted a work at a steel plant, earning roughly $9 per week. He was reared by a lone mother, had no acquaintance with his father, and converted to Christianity when he was about 12 years old. In order to provide Charles with a father figure in the family to help raise him, his mother remarried. However, that marriage failed because she wed an alcoholic and violent man. Dr. Stanley told a story of how he once drew a knife on his stepfather after being so enraged with him that he felt like he was attempting to fight him. He pleaded with his mother to separate from this man, but she remained wed to his stepfather out of loyalty to her faith and convictions. We mention that because, in spite of his upbringing, this man accomplished amazing things for the Lord. He could have stated that he was reared by a single mother, had never met his father, and had come from a home where his stepfather was an alcoholic. Some may say, it's possible that God has no specific plans for us. Maybe I'll just be present in that disabled state. But instead, he chose to become a pastor for 50 years, during which time he likely led thousands of people to the Lord, wrote more than 70 books, and had his sermons broadcast on more than 150 stations worldwide and in 50 different languages. During the epidemic, he served as a preacher until 2020 and was elected president of the Southern Baptist Convention. This is to encourage you all because some of you are looking at your dysfunctional family and believing that you will never be able to overcome your upbringing. You believe that the family structure, or lack thereof, may result in abuse, alcoholism, or even divorce. Let Dr. Stanley's story serve as an inspiration for how you don't have to be constrained by your dysfunctional family. In his books and lectures, Dr. Stanley frequently mentioned how his mother reared him alone. To all of single mothers who might not be receiving child support or could be having trouble, you're doubting your ability to raise your child and question if you have the necessary knowledge. Dr. Stanley attributes and claims that his mother's frequent attendance at a Pentecostal church as a child greatly influenced the development of his faith. Along with his grandfather, he attributes his mother with teaching him how to pray and study the Bible. Our first lesson is to encourage you, don't limit God, even if you live in a dysfunctional household or are a single parent who is unsure of what God can accomplish through you as you raise your children. Next lesson is, your shortcomings need not automatically rule you out. Unfortunately, in 2000, Dr. Stanley suffered through a devastating and traumatic divorce. His then wife, Anna Stanley, filed for divorce around the year 93. She filed for divorce despite there being no adultery or other irregularities. Finally, their marriage was divorced in 2000. Because he had previously preached and informed his congregation that if a pastor gets divorced, he will resign, Dr. Stanley was prepared to leave the ministry. We are going to be there for you, his church promised, presuming that you won't get remarried. This man, who through a difficult time in his life and got divorced in 2000, continued to minister fervently for the next 20 years until he was unable to continue. After his greatest personal defeat, he delivered some of his best sermons. Therefore, if you believe that you have been disqualified due to a failure in your life, it may be adultery, fornication, divorce, a criminal record, or anything else. Our individual shortcomings don't have to rule us out. The third lesson from his life is that time and space don't have to determine who we are. Dr. Charles Stanley was able to help people that he would have never imagined. Because his teachings will continue to be heard long after he passed away, time and space do not define his ministry. His writings, lessons learned, and children's legacies will all endure. So, I want to ask you, are you creating a legacy now that will endure beyond you? Are you going to pass away together with all of your knowledge, experience, and wisdom? People will be able to talk about you 30 years from now when you pass away. Can they say, this person's involvement in my life left an enduring impression on me?